The Cosmic Call. Dr. Sarah Chen stood frozen before the quantum array's holographic display, her coffee mug suspended halfway to her lips. The signal patterns dancing across the screen defied everything she knew about cosmic background radiation. After 15 years at the Deep Space Listening Initiative, she'd seen her share of unusual phenomena, but this was different. The quantum frequencies weren't random. They were structured, intentional, and most impossibly of all, they were everywhere at once. "Dr. Anderson," she called out, her voice steady despite her racing heart. "I need you to verify something." The facility's lead physicist appeared at her shoulder, his perpetually disheveled gray hair looking particularly wild today. As his eyes scanned the readings, the color drained from his face. "That's impossible. The signal's simultaneously present at every quantum observation point we have. It's as if space itself is trying to speak." Within hours, every major space agency and quantum research facility on Earth confirmed the same readings. The message was being transmitted through the quantum fabric of spacetime itself, making it impossible to determine its point of origin, because there wasn't one. It was everywhere, waiting to be decoded. The breakthrough came 3 days later, not from a major research institution or government facility, but from a teenage girl in Lagos who had been experimenting with quantum computing algorithms. Adana Okoro had recognized a pattern in the signal that matched certain properties of quantum entanglement she'd been studying for her science project. Her insight provided the key to decoding the message. As the translation emerged on screens worldwide, humanity collectively held its breath. To the species of Earth, we bring grave tidings and an unprecedented request. We are the collective of advanced civilizations, representing over 3,000 spacefaring species across 12 galaxies. We face a crisis that threatens the very fabric of existence, and our most advanced technologies have failed us. We do not seek your weapons or your technology. We seek something far rarer: your unique perspective and adaptability. We need your problem solvers, your pattern recognizers, your crisis managers. We need those who think differently. We need humans. The United Nations convened an emergency session, but the expected chaos didn't materialize. Instead, something remarkable happened. Dr. Chen, who had been invited to present the signal data, watched in amazement as representatives from nations that had been adversaries for generations engaged in thoughtful, measured discussion. "They're not asking for our military," noted the Nigerian representative, gesturing to the holographic message floating above the assembly. "They're not asking for our technology. They're asking for our minds. Our adaptability," added the Chinese delegate, leaning forward intently. "Our ability to see patterns others miss." The Russian representative stood, her expression contemplative. "Perhaps the question isn't who has the most advanced military or the most sophisticated technology. Perhaps the question is, who are our most innovative problem solvers?" The assembly hall buzzed with discussion as a new idea took shape. Traditional power structures and military might suddenly seem irrelevant. What was needed was something entirely different. Dr. Chen found herself appointed to the hastily assembled selection committee, tasked with identifying candidates who embodied humanity's unique problem-solving abilities. The criteria were unlike anything she'd seen before. "We're not looking for traditional experts," she explained to her colleagues. "We're looking for people who see connections others miss, who find solutions in unexpected places." The first candidate they identified was Dr. Maya Patel, a deep-sea geologist who had revolutionized our understanding of underwater thermal vent ecosystems by applying principles from quantum physics. The second was James Running Bear, an indigenous wisdom keeper who had successfully combined traditional ecological knowledge with modern conservation practices to restore endangered ecosystems. They added Dr. Kwame Osai, a quantum archaeologist who had developed new ways to study ancient civilizations by analyzing quantum imprints left in artifacts, and Elena Rodriguez, a crisis mediator known for resolving seemingly impossible conflicts by finding common ground in unexpected places. As the team came together, the collective sent another message. We observe your selection process with great interest. You choose differently than we expected. Perhaps this is exactly why we need you." The chosen team gathered at a newly established quantum communication facility in New Zealand, far from the political centers of power. As they prepared for their first direct communication with the collective, Dr. Chen noticed something remarkable. Despite the weight of their responsibility, despite the unprecedented nature of their task, each team member exhibited a quiet confidence born of years spent solving seemingly impossible problems. "We're not here because we have all the answers," Alina told the group during their first meeting. "We're here because we know how to find them in unexpected places." That night, as the quantum array hummed with energy and the team prepared to receive detailed information about the crisis they faced, Dr. Chen looked at the diverse group of problem solvers assembled before her. They weren't warriors or traditional diplomats. They weren't even conventional scientists. They were something else entirely. They were humanity's secret weapon, its ability to see patterns in chaos, find connections in seeming randomness, and imagine solutions where others saw only problems. The quantum display flickered to life, and the next chapter in humanity's journey into the cosmic community began. No one knew exactly what challenges awaited them, but one thing was certain: humanity would face them in its own unique way. The unorthodox team. The collective's vessel emerged from quantum space above Earth's atmosphere, a structure of crystalline light and flowing metal that defied conventional physics. As the human team prepared to board, the differences between their approach and what the aliens had expected became starkly apparent. While the collective's representatives had prepared advanced quantum interfaces and complex neural translation matrices, they watched in confusion as Dr. Maya Patil packed simple notebooks and drawing tools. James Running Bear brought a collection of sacred herbs and traditional meditation instruments. Dr. Kwame Osei carried basic archaeological field equipment, and Alina Rodriguez arrived with nothing but a small bag containing her conflict resolution journals. The collective's chief science officer, a being of pure energy contained within a crystalline matrix who introduced themselves as Zenith, couldn't hide their bewilderment. "We have prepared the most advanced computational systems in known space for your use," they communicated through the quantum translator. Maya smiled, holding up her notebook. "Sometimes the simplest tools let us see the clearest patterns," she explained. "In the deep ocean, where technology often fails, it's our basic observations that matter most." The team's first briefing aboard the vessel revealed the true nature of the crisis. The collective displayed vast holograms showing dark, flowing entities that seemed to consume light itself. These beings had emerged from what the collective called null spaces, regions between galaxies that their science had never fully understood. "They consume energy at an astronomical scale," Zenith explained, their crystalline form flickering with concern. "Entire star systems have vanished. Our weapons pass through them. Our shields fail. Our most advanced civilizations are helpless." James Running Bear studied the holographic displays intently. "These patterns," he said quietly, "they remind me of something we see in nature. During the Great Migrations, when animals move not because they want to, but because they must." Alina Rodriguez had been taking notes in her simple journal. "The timing of their appearances," she observed. "They're not random attacks. There's a rhythm to them, like a conversation we're not hearing." Dr. Osei set up his basic field equipment, beginning to map the entity's movements like he would map ancient settlement patterns. "Look here," he pointed to his hand-drawn charts. "They're following paths that remind me of ancient trade routes, paths of least resistance between points of significance." The collective scientists exchanged confused glances. They had run countless simulations using quantum computers that could process more information in a second than a human brain could in a lifetime. Yet these humans, with their primitive tools and simple observations, were seeing patterns they had missed. Maya spent hours studying the fluid dynamics of the entity's movements, comparing them to deep-sea current patterns. In the ocean, she explained to an increasingly interested group of alien scientists, We often find that what looks like chaos actually follows very specific rules. These entities, they're moving like deep ocean currents, following thermal and pressure gradients we can't see. As the days passed, the human team's unusual methods began to yield unexpected insights. Alina established a basic framework for analyzing the entity's behaviors not as attacks, but as attempts at communication. James recognized patterns similar to those seen in displaced wildlife, suggesting these beings might be refugees rather than invaders. The breakthrough came during what the team called their integration sessions, periods where they shared their observations and looked for connections. While the collective scientists had worked in isolated specialties, the human team worked holistically, combining their diverse perspectives. These entities, Maya explained, drawing a simple diagram, they're not just moving through space. They're moving through energy fields like ocean currents. And look here, she pointed to James's observations. They're following patterns similar to ancient migration routes. Dr. Osei added his archaeological perspective. And the timing of their appearances correlates with significant changes in the quantum structure of space itself. They're responding to something we can't see yet. Alina, who had been quietly observing the entities' interactions with each other, made a stunning suggestion. What if they're not attacking at all? What if this is their way of seeking help? The collective scientists were skeptical, but the human team's track record of unexpected insights had earned them attention. Zenith, who had been closely observing their methods, made an unprecedented decision. "Show us," they said. "Show us how you would approach this, not as a military threat, but as a crisis requiring resolution." As the team began outlining their unconventional approach, something remarkable happened. Young alien scientists, less bound by traditional methods, began to join their sessions. They brought their advanced understanding of quantum mechanics and cosmic physics, but now they looked at these problems through the lens of human intuition and pattern recognition. The human team had done more than just offer a new perspective. They had begun to bridge the gap between advanced technology and fundamental understanding. As they prepared to implement their first attempts at communication with the entities, Alina voiced what they had all been thinking. Sometimes the most advanced solution isn't about having better tools. It's about learning to see with new eyes. The collective's vessel adjusted its course, heading toward the nearest concentration of the dark entities. They were about to test whether humanity's unique approach, this combination of simple observation, pattern recognition, and holistic thinking, could succeed where the most advanced technology in the known universe had failed. Understanding the darkness. The observation deck of the collective's vessel hummed with a subtle vibration as they approached the region where the dark entities had last been detected. Maya Patel stood at the quantum blast viewport, her weathered notebook open before her. She'd filled pages with sketches comparing the entity's movement patterns to deep-sea current behaviors. Next to her, James Running Bear sat cross-legged, eyes closed, listening to the ship's background resonance. "There's something familiar about their energy signature," Dr. Osei said, studying his instruments. "It reminds me of the quantum echoes we find in ancient sites on Earth, but on a cosmic scale." Alina Rodriguez had spent the last several days reviewing all recorded interactions between the collective and the entities. "Look at this," she called out, pointing to a particular incident. Every time the collective deployed their quantum shields, the entity's behavior became more erratic. It's like they're responding to being cut off from something. The ship's sensors suddenly blared to life. A massive dark entity had appeared off their port side, its form shifting like living shadow. The collective's crew immediately moved to battle stations, but Zenith, influenced by the human team's insights, gave an unprecedented order. All defensive systems remain inactive. Let them observe. The entity drew closer, its vast form dwarfing the ship. Through the viewport, they could see patterns of energy flowing through its darkness like rivers of light. James opened his eyes, his expression intent. "Those patterns," he said quietly, "they're like the sacred geometries our elders speak of, the fundamental structures of creation. Maya's eyes widened as she made a connection. The deep ocean currents on Earth, she explained, quickly sketching in her notebook. They follow similar patterns when they interact with underwater volcanic vents. These entities aren't just moving through space. They're interacting with the energy structure of the universe itself. Dr. Osei had been running comparative analyses between the entity's energy patterns and his archaeological data. These beings, he announced, his voice filled with wonder, they're ancient. The quantum signatures they emit match patterns we found in the oldest structures in the universe. They're not invaders or destroyers. They're the original architects. The revelation stunned the collective scientists. Elena, who had been quietly observing the entity's reactions to their presence, added another crucial insight. They're not attacking stars and planets randomly. They're responding to changes in the universe's fundamental structure. Look at this data. The regions they've been most active in correspond to areas where space-time itself is beginning to degrade. A young alien scientist, one who had been working closely with the human team, brought up a complex quantum model. She's right, they confirmed. The universal expansion rate is accelerating in these regions. The very fabric of space-time is starting to unravel. Maya moved closer to the viewport, studying the entity with new understanding. In the deepest parts of Earth's oceans, we find organisms that maintain the delicate balance of our planet's ecosystems. What if these beings serve a similar purpose on a cosmic scale? James shared an ancient story from his people about guardian spirits who maintained the balance of nature. Different scale, he said, same principle. These entities aren't destroying, they're trying to repair. The dark entity outside seemed to respond to their changing perception. Its chaotic movements became more rhythmic, almost like a dance. Dr. Osei noticed that its energy patterns were shifting to match the resonant frequency of the ship's observation systems. They're not just aware of us, Elena realized. They're trying to communicate. All this time, the collective's defensive responses were preventing any real interaction. Zenith's crystalline form pulsed with growing excitement. If what you're suggesting is true, they said, then our attempts to stop them have been making the situation worse. But how do we prove this? How do we communicate with them? Maya had been sketching something new in her notebook, a diagram combining deep-sea pressure dynamics with the quantum energy patterns they'd observed. We need to think about this differently, she explained. In the deep ocean, pressure isn't just a force to be resisted. It's a medium for communication. What if we could use the quantum fabric of space itself as a communication medium? Dr. Osei built on her idea, bringing up his archaeological data. These entities have existed since the early universe. They must have some way of maintaining cosmic structure. If we could understand their original purpose. James had been quietly preparing his traditional meditation instruments. In our traditions, he said, when we seek to communicate with the spirits of nature, we first must attune ourselves to their rhythm. Perhaps we need to do the same here, not with technology, but with understanding. Elena studied the entity's reactions to their various attempts at scanning and communication. Each approach we try elicits a specific response. They're not ignoring us. They're responding in their own language, one based on energy and quantum states rather than words or signals. As the team worked to synthesize their observations, the dark entity remained nearby, its patterns becoming increasingly synchronized with the ship's natural energy emissions. The collective scientists watched in amazement as the humans, using nothing more advanced than careful observation and pattern recognition, began to unravel a mystery their most sophisticated technology had failed to solve. We've been thinking about this all wrong, Maya concluded, looking up from her notebook. We don't need to stop them. We need to help them. They're not the threat to the universe. They're its immune system, and something has forced them to respond in increasingly desperate ways. The team gathered around a simple diagram Maya had drawn, showing the intersection of deep-sea currents, quantum fields, and ancient energy patterns. They were about to attempt something unprecedented, not just communication with the entities, but collaboration with the universe's original architects, And they would do it not with advanced technology, but with understanding, observation, and the uniquely human ability to find patterns in chaos. Bridge builders. The collective's vessel hung in space like a jewel against the vast darkness, its crystalline surfaces reflecting the distant starlight. Inside, the human team had transformed the main observation deck into something the advanced alien civilization had never seen before, a fusion of ancient wisdom and cutting-edge science. Maya Patel had mapped out deep-sea pressure gradients across the deck's floor using luminescent markers, creating a physical model of how energy might flow through quantum space. James Running Bear had set up a circle of resonating crystals, their frequencies carefully matched to the harmonic patterns they'd observed in the dark entities. Dr. Osei's archaeological instruments were arranged to detect the faintest quantum echoes, while Elena Rodriguez coordinated their efforts, ensuring each element worked in harmony with the others. What we're attempting, Maya explained to the gathered alien scientists, is to create a language of energy and pressure. In the deepest oceans, creatures communicate through pressure waves and current variations. These entities seem to do something similar with quantum fields. Zenith's crystalline form shimmered with a mixture of skepticism and curiosity. Our most advanced quantum communication systems fail to establish any meaningful contact. How can these primitive methods succeed? Because we're not trying to impose our way of communicating, Elena responded, adjusting the resonance of one of James's crystals. We're learning to speak their language. Dr. Osei pointed to his latest readings. The quantum echoes were detecting match patterns found in the earliest structures of the universe. These beams don't just exist in space-time. They're part of its fundamental fabric. The dark entity they'd been observing had remained nearby, its vast form shifting in what now appeared to be deliberate patterns. James sat cross-legged at the center of his crystal circle, eyes closed, feeling the subtle vibrations. The rhythm is changing, he announced. They're responding to our harmonics. Maya quickly adjusted her pressure map, aligning it with the entity's new movement patterns. Look at this, she called out excitedly. They're matching their quantum field fluctuations to our resonance patterns. It's exactly like how deep-sea creatures adjust their movements to communicate through pressure waves. The team had spent days preparing for this moment, combining their diverse approaches into something entirely new. Dr. Osei's understanding of ancient quantum signatures helped them tune the crystal frequencies. Maya's knowledge of deep-sea communication informed their energy pattern distributions. James's traditional practices guided their approach to harmony and balance, while Elena's experience in crisis mediation helped them recognize and respond to subtle changes in the entity's behavior. Suddenly, the entity's movement patterns shifted dramatically. Its dark form began flowing in precise, geometric shapes that matched the patterns on Maya's pressure map. The crystals in James's circle hummed with increased intensity, their frequencies synchronizing with the entity's quantum field emissions. They're not just responding, Elena realized. They're adapting our method, making it more efficient. They understand what we're trying to do. Dr. Osei's instruments recorded a surge of activity. The quantum signatures, they're becoming more ordered, more deliberate. It's like they're focusing their communication, trying to tell us something specific. The collective scientists watched in amazement as patterns of light began flowing through the entity's dark form, creating complex geometric structures that mirrored both the crystal arrangement and Maya's pressure map. James opened his eyes, his expression one of wonder. They're showing us their purpose, he said quietly. These patterns, they're not random. They're showing us how they maintain the structure of space-time itself. Maya quickly began sketching in her notebook, recording the patterns. These energy flows, they're like the currents that maintain Earth's ocean ecosystems, but on a cosmic scale. They're not destroying stars and systems, they're trying to reinforce the fabric of space-time. Elena had been carefully documenting every interaction. The increased activity we've been seeing. They're responding to areas where space-time is beginning to degrade. They're trying to prevent a collapse. Zenith moved closer to the human team's makeshift communication array, their crystalline form pulsing with growing understanding. All our advanced technology, and we never considered simply listening, learning their natural patterns of communication. The dark entity's movements became more complex, creating intricate patterns that Dr. Osai recognized from his studies of ancient cosmic structures. "They're showing us more than just their purpose," he announced. "They're showing us how they work, how they maintain the universal framework." And he paused, studying his readings carefully. "They're showing us how we can help." The team worked through the night, refining their communication method. Maya adapted her pressure maps based on the entity's responses. James adjusted his crystal frequencies to better match their quantum harmonics. Dr. Osai correlated their patterns with his archaeological data, while Elena carefully documented each successful interaction. As the hours passed, something remarkable emerged. A true dialogue between humanity, the collective, and these ancient cosmic architects. The entity began demonstrating specific problems in the universal structure, showing them areas where space-time was weakening and explaining, through patterns and energy flows, how they work to repair it. "We've been fighting the universe's immune system," Elena realized. "These beings aren't the threat. They're essential to maintaining cosmic stability. And now they're asking for our help." Maya looked up from her notebook, where she'd been recording the entity's demonstrated repair techniques. "They're not just asking for help," she said. "They're offering to teach us. They want to show us how to work with them, how to be part of maintaining the universe's fundamental structure." The collective scientists, who had begun by doubting the human team's primitive methods, now gathered eagerly around their makeshift communication array. Something unprecedented was happening. 3 vastly different forms of life were learning to work together, each bringing their unique perspectives and abilities to face a crisis that threatened the very fabric of existence. James smiled as he felt the harmonious resonance between the crystals, the entity, and the ship's quantum field. "This is how it should be," he said softly. "Not conquering or controlling, but understanding and cooperating. We're all part of the same cosmic web." Symphony of Species. 1 month after the breakthrough in communication, the observation deck of the collective's vessel had transformed into something unprecedented in the history of the universe. The once sterile space now hosted a harmonious blend of technologies and techniques from 3 vastly different forms of existence. Maya's pressure maps had evolved into 3-dimensional quantum field projections, while James's crystal array now interfaced directly with the ship's advanced sensors. Dr. Osei's archaeological instruments worked in concert with the collective's quantum computers, and Elena's documentation system had become the foundation for a new form of multi-species collaboration. The dark entity they'd first contacted had been joined by others, their vast forms creating complex geometric patterns in the space around the ship. But now, instead of inspiring fear, their presence brought a sense of ancient wisdom and purpose. "Watch this," Maya said excitedly, adjusting the quantum field projections. The entities responded immediately, their movements creating ripples in space-time that the team could now not only detect but understand. "They're showing us how they strengthen the cosmic framework. It's like watching master weavers repair a tapestry at a quantum level." Dr. Osei's instruments recorded everything, correlating the entity's repair techniques with patterns found in the universe's oldest structures. "They're not just fixing things," he explained to an assembled group of alien scientists. "They're teaching us the fundamental principles of universal maintenance. These patterns exist in everything from galaxy formation to quantum fluctuations." The collective had initially been skeptical of the human team's unconventional approach, but the results were undeniable. Zenith, who had become their strongest advocate, addressed the gathered representatives from various advanced civilizations. "For millennia, we prided ourselves on our technological advancement," they said, their crystalline form pulsing with emotion. "We thought progress meant moving away from simple observation and natural harmony. The humans have shown us that true advancement comes from understanding and working with the fundamental rhythms of the universe." James sat in his crystal circle, now expanded to incorporate alien quantum resonators and connected to the entity's natural frequencies. In our traditions, he shared, we speak of being part of the great circle of life. We never imagined that circle extended to the very fabric of space-time itself. Elena had developed a new framework for cooperation, one that took into account the vastly different perspectives and capabilities of all three species. It's not about who has the most advanced technology or the most power, she explained. It's about finding how each of us can contribute to the greater whole. The dark entities demonstrated their approval by creating a spectacular display of quantum engineering. They showed how they could work in concert with the collective's technology and human insight to not just repair weakening spacetime, but strengthen it beyond its original. They're not just ancient architects, Maya realized, watching the entities work. They're teachers. They've been waiting for others to evolve enough to understand their purpose and join them in maintaining the cosmic balance. The implications were staggering. The crisis that had initially brought them together had led to something far greater, a fundamental shift in how different species could work together. The collective's advanced technology, combined with humanity's intuitive understanding and pattern recognition, complemented the entity's ancient knowledge and ability to manipulate the very structure of spacetime. Dr. Osei discovered something remarkable in his quantum archaeology data. These repair patterns we're learning, he announced, they appear in ancient structures across the universe. The entities have been leaving us clues, waiting for someone to understand them. The success of their collaboration spread rapidly across the known universe. Other civilizations, initially hesitant, began sending observers to learn this new way of working together. The human team found themselves teaching not just the practical techniques of communication and cooperation, but a whole new philosophy of existence. The universe isn't a collection of separate parts, Elena explained to a group of newly arrived alien scientists. It's a living symphony where every player has their role. The entities maintain the cosmic structure, the collective's technology helps monitor and support their work, and human insight helps bridge the gaps between different ways of thinking and being. As their understanding grew, they began to see how this principle of harmonious cooperation extended to every level of existence. The same patterns they observed in the entity's work appeared in everything from quantum interactions to galaxy formation, from deep ocean currents to human social structures. Maya had started working with a team of alien engineers to develop new technologies based on these principles. We're not just solving the immediate crisis, she said. We're learning a whole new way of working with the fundamental forces of the universe. James's traditional practices had evolved into a new form of cosmic meditation, helping different species attune themselves to the universal rhythms. When we quiet our minds and really listen, he taught, we can feel our connection to everything, from the smallest quantum fluctuation to the largest galactic structures. The dark entities, once feared as destroyers, were now recognized as the universe's custodians. They worked openly with other species, teaching them the delicate art of cosmic maintenance. The collective's advanced technology found new purpose in supporting and enhancing this natural process, rather than trying to control it. Dr. Osei's final report to Earth included a profound observation. We came here thinking we were primitive compared to the collective's advanced technology. What we found was that our very primitive way of observing, understanding, and working with natural patterns was exactly what the universe needed. Sometimes the oldest wisdom is the most advanced. As the human team prepared to return to Earth to share what they'd learned, Elena looked out at the assembled group of humans, aliens, and entities working together in perfect harmony. This is humanity's greatest gift to the universe, she reflected. Not our technology or our strength, but our ability to see connections, build bridges, and bring different ways of being together in harmony. The crisis that had threatened the universe had led to something far greater, a new understanding of existence itself, where different species, different approaches, and different forms of life could work together in a cosmic symphony of cooperation and purpose.